And then it was as though in her cued response, Jesus is reminded that in his own message, what he was bringing to the world was not polite, not customary, and was not following the rules. Her words shook Jesus' assumptions not only about her, but also about who Jesus was himself and what message he was bringing to the world. It was through this encounter that his ministry got bigger. It's as though his heart got bigger, his world got bigger, even while everyone around him was telling him otherwise. Bishop Carlton Pearson's epiphany had a specific moment to point to as well, but his change had been brewing for years before. There was a contradiction in his life. He knew that his grandparents were loving and caring people who had made mistakes. And Bishop Pearson wanted to love God, not just obey him. So each time he preached about hell, something tugged at him. Was he wrong? Was everything that he had preached until this moment wrong? Bishop Carlton Pearson came to believe that he couldn't save everyone, but that Jesus could. His epiphany came with drastic consequences. We know this firsthand because we have heard it from his voice in this pulpit. That Bishop Pearson has lost a great deal, but has also gained his integrity and his authenticity. Nearly everything for him has changed as a result of this face-to-face encounter with God. And now he's even comforted by those whom he once condemned. And now, strangely, Bishop Pearson's story fits comfortably into the story of Jesus in which he wholeheartedly believes. Now, not everyone has such a distinctive encounter when we have a change of heart or a change of mind. The voice of God has actually never graced my living room. But moments of clarity often come after a succession of experiences that chip away at our meaning-making until a new pattern opens up and reveals itself in the conscious mind. Each time our thoughts travel along the same path to the same conclusion, that conclusion actually becomes easier and easier, and making a different decision actually becomes more and more difficult. So when we have an epiphany experience, often many factors have been at play for a long time. Our change of heart may be invisible to us, but really noticeable to others if they're paying close attention. They might hear it in our voice, in our choice of words, or our tone, our body language, or the way that we might hesitate. Now, sometimes our change of mind is obvious to everyone else but us. You must have had this experience with someone you love when all of a sudden they come to the conclusion that you have been arguing for years, and it's now their idea. This incredible epiphany, because it was the right time and the scale finally tipped far enough in that direction. Dr. Howard Gardner, professor of cognition and education at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, wrote a book not long ago called The 7 Levers of Mind Change. He imagines this machine where all of the levers have to be pulled at different times. Gardner is also responsible for the theory of multiple intelligences, which we use in order to design some of our children's religious education curriculum here at All Souls. Now, Dr. Gardner has identified 7 R's, which are helpful in understanding how people change their minds. They are reason, research, resonance, redescription, rewards, real-world events, and resistance. Now, reason is obvious. It's, of course, employed by the way of the use of argument in order to persuade. Research is a little trickier. It's used in order to collect facts, also with the purpose of persuading, but often, however, there is a conflict between competing facts, and our decision comes from which facts we choose to take into account. What facts we choose are often influenced by our feelings, about how much weight and credibility we give to certain facts over others. Another R of Dr. Gardner's is resonance. According to Gardner, appeals to our feelings. Resonance says, does it feel right? Does it fit? Some people rely heavily upon resonance and prefer it to a reasoned and researched position. If an idea resonates, then it feels as though it fits in perfectly with our understanding and assumptions about the world. Or it resonates so true that it completely flips our understanding and assumptions of the world. Now, I like to think of resonance, the kind of resonating with ideas, as similar to resonating in physics. In physics, resonance is the phenomenon of producing large amplitudes of vibrations by a small periodic driving force. If an idea resonates, then it will carry more weight than it does not. It will make big changes. It will serve as the driving force for changing our mind, often nagging us until we do. Another R of Dr. Gardner's is redescription. Our attempts to redescribe or reframe a problem in order to make the solutions more apparent. The more metaphors that resonate and that imply the same conclusion, the more likely we are to change our mind. Marlon spoke last week about the importance of this reframing, these metaphors and stories, and understanding our struggles with evil. These stories are redescriptions of the problem that help us to grab hold in different ways. There are rewards in Dr. Gardner's framework. Rewards are also usually accompanied by penalties. Changing our minds can bring us rewards or penalties, either one. We often weigh the consequences, but this is not necessarily the deciding factor for whether or not we will actually take the risk. It merely adds to the pile. Real-world events also support us in changing our mind. When the new idea that we're leaning toward is supported by what is currently taking place in the world, real-time story and metaphor can have a huge impact. When we can find examples in our current experience and in our own current meaning-making, we are more likely to change our minds.